G'day and welcome again to the Campfire Project Discussion. And today I have with me, first of all, Dr. David Morowitz, who is a counsellor, a counselling psychologist and sleep specialist. How are you, David?
I'm very well, thanks, Alan. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And Nathan Segal, who is a copywriter and JV affiliate marketer. How are you, Nathan?
Last time I checked, just fine.
And Pauline Crawford-Omps, Ambassador of Magical Conversations and CEO of Corporate Heart International. How are you, Pauline?
I'm really good. Good to see you, Alan. Good to meet you, Nathan and David.
It's great to have you here. We're actually all over the place because David and I are both in Australia. Nathan's in Mexico. And people might think, first of all, by your accent, Pauline, you're in England, but you're actually in Las Vegas in America.
I am that, yes.
He's transplanted just like me.
Yes.
I think this is absolutely wonderful because have these conversations. We're connected all over the world, bringing together the different ideas that we have, but seeing a lot of similarities in what we do and how we think as well, which is, I think, is absolutely brilliant. So today we want to talk about the possibilities that we can create a future where everybody learns by using nature to heal our natural wounds. A natural rhythm versus commercial reliance for success, and how we can become intolerant of nature, placing past successes in material and medicated resources where now we have better understanding of how to recover our senses and to listen to common sense, or can we? That's the question. So what I'd like to do, Paul, is throw it over to you if I can, first of all, and then take it to David, where we've talked about medications and things, looking at sleep, for instance, and how we can improve in the things that we're doing there. So, Pauline, would you like to kick us off on this, please?
Okay, I'd love to. And yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing about the sleep remedies and also whatever Nathan has to say about writing. But I think the reason I tuned into this is we just mentioned we're all from different places, but I think we're all world citizens. And I think the earth and nature has a lot to give to us, and understanding that, you know, we're human beings, that we're not animals, but we live on this earth and we have a lot of gifts in ourselves as well as gifts around us that we can use. And I'm sure we'll hear more about the sort of the thing between natural remedies and medical, but my focus is about helping individuals to really get natural with each other. And I don't mean naked, but naked in our conversation. So we can actually be honest, truthful, genuine, and uniquely individual. So my passion about what I call magical conversations is that they're conversations which we're going to have, which is without a judgment, without anger, without coercion. But the real core of it is that we're very different. So we're uniquely, you know, fingerprint. We've all got a different fingerprint. We've got different DNA. We are unique human beings. And I think we've become, I would say, too materialistic and commercial minded, and we've forgotten that the gifts of nature are there not just to cure us in terms of herbs and food, but actually in examples. So I always say, you know, if you look out in nature and you see lots of trees, you go, well, they're trees, but I'm sure that big tree there is different to the small tree over there, and the willow is different to the oak, and we're all individual, and really understanding what world we want to create is also under the microscope. So the micro light at the moment is that we have this condition now in the world where everything is changed, everything is stopping, lockdown, crisis, civil unrest. We need to, I believe, look at what we have naturally and how nature has given each of us a natural gift. And I ask my clients a lot, so what's your natural gift? I should ask all of you, what's your natural gift that you never got at school? It was nothing to do with education. It was what you were born with, and hopefully it was nurtured by parents. It might not have been, but people often say to me, well, how the hell do I know what that is? So I'm going to give you an example of what it is. It's what you do so well that when you do it, and other people say, hey, Nathan, Alan, David, you do that so well, and you go, oh no, that's nothing. We tend to negate what we do so well because we do it so naturally, we don't realize that that's our gift. And I think that could help us to heal the world, Because if we started sharing what those natural gifts are, and also say these are all important. So, you know, if you're an artist or a musician or a mechanic or an inquisitive scientist, or you're just really good at detail, or even just, you know, whatever it is, if we share those and say they're all valuable parts of nature and how we are as natural human beings, then we can actually create a very different world. And we can draw in the commercial side, obviously, because we need to, but if we start there rather than start with what restrictions we've built at the moment by being too commercial, and especially in medical terms, I think there's far too much that we take, or we're given to take by doctors, which we don't need to take. So that's my cut on it, is who are we naturally? How do we use that? And then how do we inform ourselves with nature and natural things? And obviously sleep is absolute key to this, as well as, dare I say, dancing. Okay. So I love dancing, and I love the idea of being in flow with nature. So I'm going to hand it over to you, David, and see what you think about that.
Thank you, Pauline. That's a very interesting set of comments you made there. I'm trying to think, what's my natural gift? I'm thinking curiosity might be one. And I think in this time of COVID-19, a lot of people will have either lost their job or will have been thinking, well, what I've been doing hasn't been working for me, and maybe now's the time with this discontinuity, maybe now's the time to look somewhere else. And I'm reminded of what Tim Minchin talked about. He's an Australian singer, songwriter, comedian, writer of musicals. He gave a talk to the graduating class of the University of Western Australia. And he was saying to them, if you know, people say, follow your dream. But what if you don't have a dream, as a lot of people don't have when they're 18, 19, 20? They're not sure what they want to do. So what he suggested was, do whatever it is that you're doing absolutely the best that you can, and keep your peripheral vision open. So keep your curiosity there. And you may find that there'll be something that you hadn't thought of that might actually attract you. I've had that experience myself. I had a midlife career change, and it can be a very powerful thing. Going back to what you were leading into, which was sleep, I've seen just the other day a study in the United Kingdom saying that now, in the time of COVID, 64%, so that's nearly 2 people out of 3, are now having sleep problems. Which is not surprising, because
that's huge.
People's life, yeah, it's absolutely huge. Normally, it's about 15% who regularly have trouble sleeping, but it seems to be now 64%. So, as you say, it's huge. It's been really demonstrated very well that sleeping medication can be helpful if you use it every now and then, like once or twice a week. But when it gets used every night, night after night, week after week, month after month, year after year, then it stops being useful, and in fact, it can become harmful. So what I've done is put out a self-help program called Sleep Better Without Drugs. A lot of it first of all helps you to diagnose the sleep problem, and then gives you more than 50 different things that you can do, non-drug things that you can do to help yourself to sleep better, and each person finds the ones that are important for them.
That's fabulous.
Incredible.
So should I give you a couple of tips from that, or you want to go a different way, Alan?
Well, a couple of tips first of all, and then we'll ask Nathan about his natural gifts as well, I think. Just a couple of quick tips if you can, because I know if that's the percentage at the moment, you know, 2 in 3 virtually having sleep issues, a couple of quick tips would be quite brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
So to start off, and I'll give you a couple which are not well known. To start off with, sleepiness comes in waves about every 60 to 90 minutes or so. So see if I can draw the wave. So it's like a sine wave or like a wave in the ocean. And so once you become aware of that, falling asleep is a bit like surfing. You have to learn to catch the wave of sleepiness. And sometimes if you just miss sometimes they last only 5 to 7 minutes. So if you miss that wave, you have to wait for the next one to come. But once you become aware of that, so for instance, you may have had the experience that you were reading or doing something else. You started to feel sleepy. You thought, I'll just finish this chapter, or I'll just finish what I'm doing. But by the time you've just finished, you're not sleepy anymore. Okay, you've got your second wind. So that is those waves of sleepiness. And it's very easy to establish when they are coming on. It's the simple things like your eyes get heavy, you start yawning. So that is the sleepiness coming on. So when that comes on, don't finish the chapter, don't finish watching the movie, just go to bed, or if you're in bed, go to sleep. Second tip, which is really connected to that, relates to worrying about not sleeping. A lot of people lie in bed thinking to themselves, I've got to sleep, I've got to sleep. If I don't sleep, I'll never get through the day tomorrow. If you listen to my voice, what am I doing? I'm waking myself up, right? So that's counterproductive. So instead of that, what you can learn to do is to lie there resting peacefully and to talk to yourself in a different way. First of all, you can learn to say to yourself something like, what's the worst thing that will happen if I don't sleep at all tonight? I'll be very, very tired tomorrow. That'll be awful, but I won't die from that. In fact, I'll probably make it through the day as I've always made it through the day in the past. Worrying about it now will only make it worse. So, and here's the important part, so I'll just lie here and rest now. And as long as it is peaceful rest, that'll be nearly as restorative as sleep anyway. And to give you just a last bit that goes with that, an embarrassing example to explain why it is, how does it work that if lying there resting peacefully is nearly as good as sleep. One of the things I used to love to do was take my kids to piano lessons, and I would lie down on the floor, close my eyes, listen to them playing, one of the highlights of the week for me. After a couple of months, the word came back, Dad, it's really embarrassing when you snore during our piano lessons. I said, who, me snore? I'm listening to you. It must have been just once. They said, Dad, it's every time. So I'm a sleep specialist. And even I don't know when I'm going in and out of sleep on those waves. So that's what happens when you are lying there resting peacefully. You will actually go in and out of sleep without being conscious of it, because by definition, by very definition, when you are asleep, you are not conscious of it.
It's a bit of a worry, isn't it? You know, sometimes I've actually, I was in a conversation, I've actually fallen asleep while I was talking, mid-sentence. So the cycles do come. It's something to be aware of. Nathan, what about yourself?
This whole natural gift is something I'm really not able to practice right now, which has really been really hard on me because my natural gift is connecting with people, making friends, talking to people. And well, it's partly to do with where I'm living right now. It's really a lovely place, but it's not easy to get in and out of. And I've also been really leery about walking the streets around here because of these Karens and mask shamers going on. Mind you, in a few days, I'm moving to another town, and we'll see what happens there. I've been talking to some of my friends, and they're saying it's not as bad as you might think. So we'll see. We'll see. But the other thing, too, is I've had both a combination of forward motion and setback in what I've been doing. I've been working on creating an NLP course with a colleague of mine, and we would have had it launched by now, except that my colleague came to me and he said, you know, what would be of huge benefit is if you built a really in-depth course which shows everything that everybody needs to know about, well, building an online business. So starting from zero, like getting a domain name, getting hosting, setting up WordPress, setting up security, and then building the entire structure, funnel, all that sort of stuff. So I've been working on that. It slowed me down to a crawl. On the other hand, when I finally get out the other side of this in about 2 or 3 weeks, then I'll have a product finished that we can make money from, and I'll be able to market our course, and then I can start talking to people. But right now I can't, at least not so much. When I get back to this small town about 3 or 4 days, then I'll be able to go out and hang out with people. But right now it's been really hard.
Yeah, so having a natural gift and then having things that prevent you from being able to express that's always going to be an issue.
Well, yeah, what's made it worse is all these people who are online screaming at each other about shaming each other over this whole mask thing. And I've just been a part of a conversation, and I'm saying, you know, you guys are insane. Your reason has gone straight out the window. You've let your fear go into your mind, drive you insane, which is what the powers that be want. And you're just screaming at everybody and threatening people and saying, I'm going to get in your face. Well, that's assault. I'm sorry. And so this kind of stuff has made me really leery about going back to this town, and actually quite afraid. And I don't like feeling that way. And the only way I'm going to find out is just by doing it. But if it gets too crazy, then I'm going to be spending a lot of time at home, which is not my natural way of being. And for me, that's really depressing. I don't like that. But what I'm seeing with a lot of these people is they're freaking insane, absolutely insane, and screaming at each other. And mind you, that kind of screaming online I've seen before. This isn't anything new in that way, but it's just worse, a lot worse.
Yeah, it's just magnified in its intensity, and it's showing the disconnection from ourselves and from each other. And it's like, as you were saying, David, when you're asleep and you're lying there trying to get sleep and you're getting panicked, I can't sleep, I can't sleep. That's just winding yourself up. And all this talk that's going online is winding everybody up as well. Getting angry with somebody else, as they say, is like taking poison yourself and hoping that they'll die. It just doesn't work.
It's true. It's true.
So we're so disconnected in that process. So I would say very few people, everyone's got a natural gift, because everybody on the planet is different. As you said, Pauline, that we have a different fingerprint to everybody else. Also, our skull shapes, there is no two skulls on the planet that are identical to each other. Because the skull takes its shape because of the way in which we think. As we're growing, the sutures don't seal up until later on. And the way we like to think, the synaptic connections that are created create the volume of the brain, which therefore creates the shape of the skull. And so we've got all that variation. So there's no two people that are the same. Therefore, everybody has a gift. But the trouble is, most of us aren't getting to express those gifts simply because of the situations. And when we're not expressing something that is natural to us to express, of course, that's going to cause us extra frustration and make things a lot worse. And that's when we start reaching for the pills and blame everybody else first of all, and then start reaching for the pills and that to try and deaden our pain, which just doesn't work.
Not very well.
That's right. And one of the things I want to offer is that I say my structured magical conversation circle, which is natural experience. People are invited not to judge, not to be angry, and not be coercive, but to use their curiosity or their imagination for sure, and also use their experiences to bring them into the circle and start showing. And people are what you're saying, Nathan, people are very impatient at the moment, but unless we allow that space in order to see something new, we keep on going back in this maelstrom of stirring things up. And I suppose it's the equivalent to nature, maybe natural disasters, like earthquakes and tsunamis and God knows what, that they create a total chaos, don't they, and destruction. And that's what's going on. And yet nature, interestingly, always survives afterwards. I mean, the earth takes some time in some places, but it comes back. And even like there's a gully out here which is a walkway, and when it rains it turns into a river, and when it's not raining it's a beautiful green walkway. And I think we got to get, to me it's getting back into the natural flow of conversation. And I agree with you, Nathan, it's really very scary out there at the moment, because people are not allowing themselves to come into that space of safe conversation.
Yeah, it's actually really, really crazy. Actually, I was chatting with my girlfriend about this because I've been encountering these mask shamers who are accusing me of being a murderer, and because I don't like wearing a mask, and I don't believe what I hear about them. And in terms of the whole pandemic, for me, it's just a well-planned, orchestrated lie. The virus, from what I can see, is real, but everything else is not. It's just fear-mongering, and I've seen a lot of that throughout my life, a lot of fraud. So I recognize it a country mile away, but so many of these people don't have any experience with fraud or con games, and they've fallen for it. But what my girlfriend came up with, which I thought was really funny, when somebody says, well, you're going to be killing my grandmother. It's like, really? Is your grandmother anywhere near here? Well, she's not. Then what's the problem? But the other thing she said, which I absolutely loved, which made me laugh, is when, and I know it's going to happen at some point, somebody's going to accuse me of being a serial murderer and say, yeah, I'm definitely a serial murderer. My name is Captain Crunch. Do you get it?
No.
No.
Think of the word cereal. Think of what, yeah. I mean, years ago, one of my favorite T-shirts was a scene in the 1920s. There's a Charlie Chaplin-like guy talking on one of those old-style cell phones in one of these rooms. Captain Crunch is lying on the floor dead with a knife through his heart. He's talking on the phone. He says, yeah, Chief, it looks like another one of those serial murders. It was, I thought it was hysterical. What I'm doing by doing this for those people who, well, hopefully it'll work, maybe it won't, but it's a pattern interrupt. And it's a shock. It's like, oh yeah, definitely. I'm a serial murderer, all right. My name's Captain Crunch. And if they have any brains at all, and they realize, well, sorry, not if they have any brains, but if they realize the whole thing is designed to break them out of the track of where they are. My girlfriend told me that. I started laughing myself silly. I thought that was brilliant. But you're right. A lot of people won't get it. And I was thinking of creating a meme out of it when, you know, oh, you're murderers, but writing it out as serial, as in Cereal, serial killer. Yes, my name is Captain Crunch. Have a picture of Captain Crunch in the lower corner. I haven't put it out there yet. I might, but
It's really a dad's joke for a
what's
lot
that?
of people. It's a dad's joke for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think it's funny, but maybe I'm just warped.
I think it's a good idea to have some pattern interrupt, because you know, trying to mix the whole thing together, you know, when people are angry and they stay in their brain, in their head, and don't have what we might call common sense, but I mean, we all might disagree about what common sense is, but if they're not sleeping, going back to what David said, is we've got a world which is being forced to stop because of COVID, and then we can't sleep, and then we're all getting angry. So we need to get some order in here. And one of my programs at the moment, just to share, is that it's about how do we create our future design by using our imagination and going forward to that, and then reverse engineering from something better. Now, not everybody's going to buy into that, but if we can understand what the differences out there in the future are, it's a bit like Back to the Future. This is back from the future that we would like to design, and then working on what the key components are to put in there. It's a tough call at the moment, but I believe that if we keep on having these conversations and we understand what we're tuning into, that we can get there.
Actually, a really important thing to do with all of this, and I've been working on it more and more. Not enough, but getting there is one of the things I've been thinking about, and it's to do with what's going on, but also other things. Is I don't like the person I've become because of social media, and especially Facebook. You know, prior to a lot of this social media, I had 3 very simple rules: no TV, no radio, no television. And by doing those things, I was able to lead a simpler life, but I've been sucked into a lot of this stuff without even really realizing that it's happened. And so the challenge is to go back to who I was before social media showed up. And so one of the things I did is I uninstalled Facebook from my smartphone. Don't have it at all anymore. Haven't had it for 6 weeks. I actually don't miss it, but I do like watching YouTube videos. And outside of that is, and I haven't been as disciplined as I could be, but on Facebook, there's a couple of programs you can get. One is called Social Fixer, and the other one is called, I think, something like Newsfeed Remover. So one of the major problems for a lot of people, myself included, is getting sucked into the newsfeed on Facebook and all the drama that goes along with it. But what would happen if you could turn it off? It suddenly is replaced with inspirational quotes. What then? So I got this thing going. I turned off my newsfeed. So there's nothing there, no drama, unless I go into a group. Another thing I did was unsubscribe from about 80 different groups. It's only the ones that I care about, really. And then the other thing is trying to restrict myself so I'm not online very much, especially not on Facebook. And then also looking at other groups and saying, do these really add to my life or not? Quora? No. Twitter? No. Facebook, in a lot of ways, no. If I didn't need it for business, I'd sign off permanently.
And that's what I've
So
been looking
it's
at.
just stuff like that. So when you unplug from a lot of these things, then your life automatically improves in a lot of ways. Just my opinion.
That's it. Well, being selective about what you watch and everything. Of course, I know
Absolutely,
that
yeah.
with Pauline, yours is all about having that respect whenever they're having conversations. So you know that in there, you're not going to get that instigation of issues and things starting. You know, Campfire Project, it's all about showing each other respect. So you're selective. And this is where a lot of people aren't selective. They just take everything that comes in. And future pacing as well. And as you know, in NLP, and we also, with what you were saying, David, about when you're trying to get to sleep, think about, well, what it's not going to really make tomorrow. It's not going to kill me. It's going to be, it's like, you know, I might be tired, but I can still function. And as you said, Pauline, we're looking into the future and finding the right way. It works. I used to work with terminally ill patients as a massage therapist, and I had a number who were actually reversing their conditions. One of the things was that I got them to stop, if they watch the news on a regular basis, the news, as you said, Nathan, there was no newspapers, there was no TV, there was no radio. If they watched anything, it had to be laughter. They then started talking, couples, for instance, started spending more time back in the kitchen, preparing food and things like that. And these people were reversing their conditions, because one of the things that we did as well, we removed all of that. At the same time, I went, right, what would you like, you know, what would your future be like if it was the way you really wanted it? Because you can't change your thinking by thinking about the thoughts. And I used to say to people, if you don't like the way you're thinking, how's that making you feel? And they say, oh, I really feel like crap. I go, okay, well, how would you prefer to feel? And they tell me how they prefer to feel. Like, okay, now with all your senses, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory, if you were feeling that way, what would you be doing? Who would you be with? What would you be seeing? What would you be saying? If you're out at a meal, what are you eating? And the more they thought about that, you can see their posture change, but now their thoughts are aligned to their new, to the feelings that they would prefer to feel. There's no connection to the old thoughts. The only way you can get back to the old thoughts is to go back down through the feelings, across to the crap feelings. No, they're not going to do it. And so they were changing what was going on in their heads, because every thought we have creates a chemical reaction, and those chemicals hit every organ of our body. If you've got a lot of anger and resentment, well, resentment's going to be, abandonment, for instance, is going to be kidneys. Anger at somebody is going to hit your liver. And some people will say, oh, but how does that work? And I go, well, how does a medical pill that you have for, say, a liver complaint, why don't you take that for your kidney complaint? Because it's designed for the liver. Well, it's the same thing with your thoughts. All those different chemicals are going to hit different parts of your body. So resonate to those. So by changing the way you're thinking, but you can't say to somebody, change your thinking. You do it through, Nathan, through future pacing, through, getting the crap out of your head, looking at things in a different way. As you said, David, reasoning that out and going, right, what's the worst thing that could happen if I didn't get the sleep tonight? Yeah, I'll be sleeping by tomorrow, but it's not going to kill me. It's not going to change my life. Yeah,
one thing that's going to make a major change for me in the next few days is going to this small town. And what was interesting about it is I've been doing a lot of mindset work to do with wealth and abundance. And this friend of mine called me up a while ago, offered me a house sit, and I've done several of those, and I've got supposedly one waiting in this town, maybe. But my friend called up and he gave me like a gold-plated offer. And what I mean by that is asked me about house sitting, told me that they have a room downstairs, a tenant is sleeping, they would like me to have the room and to take care of the house while they're gone. And I might be gone till November, December. But the other thing he said to me is, you know, and we'd like to offer this to you like long-term, beyond this. And we don't need the money and we're not concerned about that, but we do want someone here. And he said, we really like you. We've been friends for a long time. What do you think? It's like, okay, that's a gold-plated offer. What am I going to say but yes? And so in a few days, I'm heading there and we'll see. But it's a 2-bedroom. It has a small pool, private pool. It's kind of funny when you look at it. It looks like the shape of a kidney, actually. I'm not joking.
Well, I can
Maybe
see when
a
you're
little bit.
swimming in it, you'll be thinking about what we've been talking about today.
A little bit, yeah. But it's mostly designed for just keeping cool. And during the summer in Bucerías, believe me, I'll need it. It gets really hot. I mean, I've had this fantasy in mind for quite a while of the ideal place I want to live. And ironically, the pool is not quite what I envisioned, but it's a pool and it's a step in the right direction. But it'll be interesting to get back. And I gotta just get back and face all these fears that have been going on in my head. And that should help a lot because I've been dealing with a tremendous amount of stress to do with work and other major problems where things have not been working. And it's really screwed me up a lot inside. I'm hoping that once I get back there, get into a familiar surrounding, see my old friends again, stuff that should help quite a bit.
Excellent. And David, you were going to say?
Yes,
please.
Just on the whole question of television news and so on. Yeah, I'm a great believer that television news is usually, if it bleeds, it leads. So it's not necessarily the news, it's the news that's visual. And a lot of important news is not necessarily visual. But more generally, I think everybody's different, so everybody has to find their own balance between, on the one hand, keeping up with what's going on, because certainly here in Australia, and I'm sure around the world, you have to know, all right, are we allowed out? Are we not allowed out? We're only allowed to have 5 people come and visit the home now. It used to be 10, but no, we've had a bit of a spike, and so on and so on. So you need to keep an eye on that so that you can actually be part of what's going on. But if you allow yourself to focus only on that, then it can be very frightening. And it reminds me a little bit of 9/11. I remember when I first saw the planes crashing into the towers, I sat there transfixed and watched it for a couple of hours, and they kept on replaying it and replaying it and replaying it.
Yes.
And it was like a rabbit in the headlights. And it was not a good thing to do. So I've now tried to learn from that and, yes, devote some time to following what's going on with COVID, but also, very importantly, to consciously try and divert yourself. Go and talk to people on Zoom or talk to people face to face if you're allowed to do that wherever you happen to be. Follow whatever it is, whatever interests that you have, other than simply following how many people are dying and how many people are infected and all the rest of it. So I think it's that balance that's really important.
Yeah, you need to know what the rules are if you're going to go out. If you work at home like I do, I only go out to do my shopping and that's about it, or to catch up with an old mate on a Saturday morning. And other than that, I'm quite happy in my isolation. So I don't need a lot of that news. I just need to know the day before I'm going to go out, or that morning, what is the restrictions out there. And other than that, I'm not watching the news at all, because I can't change what's happening. That's the whole thing. If I can't change it, then I don't need to be watching it. And if it's not affecting me right here, right now, people say, oh, but you're not connected to other people. Well, the trouble is I'm too connected to other people, because that then has a negative effect on me. And what does that help if I'm feeling so negative about the whole thing and getting stressed out? Because then I need to jump onto, and I've actually got it right here. I'll need to jump onto David's program to get some sleep happening. And while all those thoughts are rushing around my body, all those chemicals that aren't doing any good for me, I'm actually damaging myself to be involved in worrying about what happened to everybody else, the stuff that I can't do anything about, and I make myself worse. And if I make myself worse, then I become an addition to the problem.
There's a very nice description of what you're just talking about. People sometimes think, look, when disasters happen, and COVID-19 is as big as any of them, then you must be really worried about it, and you must think about it, and you must focus on it, and so on. And the alternative is pretty much what you've just been saying. Excuse me. So the alternative is there anything I can do about this? No, there's not. So if I focus on this and I spend my whole time focusing on this, the only thing that happens is I feel bad. The rest of the world, nothing else changes. So total world welfare goes down because my welfare has gone down. Nothing else has changed. So it's actually not helpful. So what can I do? I can, yes, pay attention to it just enough so that I know what I need to know. And then I can actually focus on something, divert myself, distract myself, and focus on something that's actually going to make me feel a bit better. And if I feel a bit better and nothing else has changed, world welfare has increased.
And at the same time, if you are connected to other people, then you're actually adding to the wellness of the world. More so
if it's the right connection, of course.
Yeah,
that's right.
You've got that. Just focusing on the negative side of things, all you're doing is affecting your own health, which that then puts a further burden on our health situation. It might only be one person, but if everybody was thinking that way, it's one of the reasons why it's costing a fortune in mental health, because people have worked themselves into that state because they've felt that, well, to be a good person, I've got to take on everybody else's problems as well. Well, that is, I believe, quite abusive to everybody else, because you keep them locked into that state. When they, two people, they used to say that two people, like a problem shared is a problem halved. Well, if a problem is shared and it's acted upon and a solution is found, then the problem's halved. But if it's just two people join in on it, then it's not only multiplied, it's also propelled into the future a longer period. Because as soon as the person who's feeling it in the first place starts to feel better, the other one is still carrying on about it, which then winds the first one back up again, and it just keeps going on and on and on. Think about some of the situations around the world where there's been civil unrest, and nobody, if you go back to the beginning, you go, okay, how did this start? Nobody can really tell you definitively how it started, but we've been perpetrating it and carrying it on over all those years.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter how it started. What the big problem is the perpetration of it. I think, and please forgive me for saying this, but I think it was Trump who said the other day that if we stopped testing and if we stopped doing all this stuff, everything would vanish, which is true. The only reason that we're in all this shit is that people won't stop fanning the flames. And it's like another article I read at one point is, if nobody had ever created this big drama out of nothing, chances are nobody would even have noticed that this happened. There would have been sicknesses, there would have been deaths, but it would have been like the normal flu. And one of the things that I've said repeatedly, which some people do not seem to understand or don't want to understand, is if they started tracking the flu the way that they're tracking the coronavirus, we would see exactly the same thing. A lot of this is make-believe. And it's just perpetuated by all these people who need to keep us afraid. And if they can keep us afraid, then they can control us and manipulate us. Now, I've seen this throughout my life in various forms of fraud. I've seen tons of it. And it's so obvious to me, but it's amazing to me how many people don't see it. or don't want to see it.
I guess reasonable people can disagree, and I'll have to disagree with that.
Okay.
I could say,
enough.
I was going to say, I'd like to put in a point in that whether you believe it's real or not real or whatever, I think the world was ready for a change. And I am actually one that I think I'm maybe sound old, but I'm pleased that this change has come, because I think there were a lot of things that I didn't feel were really serving humanity, and that I'm very focused on the business world and how some of the entities that are running the world are not very balanced. And I'm very passionate about having a good balance of men and women working together, living together, loving together, and creating harmonious organizations, and sorting out all the marginalized issues of the world. And what we've got at the moment is I think, is the bursting of the blister. My ex-husband used to use this, and is that when you've got a blister on your arm and you see it growing and growing, you think, oh, well, maybe it'll go away. And then it gets bigger and it gets a bit painful, and you think, oh no, I've got to burst this blister. And either gets burst for you, or you get a needle and you put it in, and you've got to deal with the pus that comes out. So we've got this process of what Simon Sinek calls evolution or revolution. And I think it's evolution. I think there are a lot of people in the world who want it to be revolution, but I, for one, am very optimistic and positive about the ability of human beings to actually be loving and compassionate. And you may not agree with me, but I've always been annoyingly positive, as some of my friends would say, because I believe that we have the opportunity now to really talk about values and, what is that future we really want. And it won't work out the way we all want it, but if we have some of the conversations that I initiate and I get involved with, I see very positive things coming out, even if they're not achievable just at the minute. And for me, it's about the whole complexity of life, right from sleep to, building our immune system. So whether the virus is real or not, if we build our immune system, then we're less likely to either get it or die from it. But we're all going to die eventually, I'm pretty old myself, but maybe I've got another 20, 30 years to go. But I plan to be 101 and see the world differently. So that's my dream. And I keep that intention alive every day, even if sometimes the days aren't as perfect as others. There's always issues around. But I just feel that we've got to get people out of their anger and use that as passion for purpose to change. I don't know what you think, but I think we all have the ability to do that.
Yeah, when you just focus on the negative, that's all you're going to get more of, and there's no solution in that at all. But we've got, I know that 640,000 people die every year from influenza. We've apparently hit 1 million with COVID, so the numbers are slightly larger now with COVID. But the end result is, at the end of the day, it's what we deal with what we've got. We can't change the situation. We can only work with what we've got. And it comes down to working out, I believe, well, from my point, is what serves me the most. Because what serves me the most allows me to be the best version of myself, which therefore means I can be of service to other people at the best level. If I'm caught up in my own stuff and hanging on to it and fighting and arguing and everything else, I'm not adding to anything to the community. I'm killing myself inside, and I'm robbing everybody else of what I could do by being the best version of myself. And so being curious, as you were saying before when you first started, David, that being curious about life and everything else, I am. This is what my whole focus is. This is where the Campfire Project has come from everything that I've done in the past, all the things that triggered me and got me thinking in a positive way. All the things that happened in the past, they may have not been the way I would have liked them, but I've looked at it and go, okay, well, if one door shuts behind me, where are the doors in front of me? If I'm looking behind me all the time and hanging on to that, I'm missing opportunities. And I say, oh, but there's nothing out there. Well, I wasn't looking in that direction, so I couldn't see anything out there.
When opportunity knocks, open the door, I believe, yes.
And that's it.
Well,
So,
one thing that would be really nice is to see more groups like this happening.
Yes.
I'm not aware of much going on right now. Actually, the funny thing is, a number of years ago, I was a part of a platform which was like this, which had a wonderful community, but the founders did not have the vision of the community, and they destroyed everything they did. That particular platform was known as Blab, and I used to spend hours in front of my computer just talking to people from all over the world and having a great time. I didn't miss not going out. It would be absolutely awesome if it found a way to come back, but unfortunately that hasn't happened. It would make what we're going through right now a lot easier.
We've seen some really great stuff come out of this, as you've said, Paul, in people's attitudes to step up and help their communities and everything else. At the same time, we've seen some of the worst as well. I dropped in to just get some food for the weekend, and there's a guy in front of me with 3 trolleys that he's pushing. And I just couldn't believe it. And I thought, I hope he's, feeding the local football team or a small army. It was ridiculous. And our shelves are empty again from toilet paper. I can't believe it.
I was going to say, you sure was he pushing things of toilet paper?
No, it had a whole mass of different things in here. He had multiples of everything.
Somebody described the toilet paper, the second round of toilet paper, it's deja vu.
I like that one.
Perfect pattern interrupt. Thank you so much. Deja vu.
I just wanted, to your point, Nathan, I wanted just that I come across a lot of communities now forming that are like Campfire Project. There's another one called Humans First. If you want to find it, that's #Humans First, and that you can just turn up and chat, and it's all positive and growth. And then awesome. A lovely one called Keep Smiling Movement. And just a quick one, which refers to what you're saying, Alan. I think you've looked into this. The guy who started the Keep Smiling Movement was a quadriplegic. He is now not a quadriplegic, and he's a bit shaky on his legs. He's 87 as well, Barry Shaw. But he cured himself through smiling. And he literally, he had been a quadriplegic for, I think, actually about 8 years or something. But he suddenly decided that was it. He was going to change his mindset. And he sings and he smiles the whole time. And he's out there promoting this. And he just produced cards, and I've got one somewhere saying, keep smiling. And he just got people to have photographs taken with this keep smiling. So and it's spreading. So I think we have a world where we have the opportunity to create some real magic. Do you like this? I got my magic wand here, guys. Is that as people, if you had a magic wand, what is it you'd like? And people say, oh, I can't do that. Well, okay, don't. But if you're open-minded and you're willing, so you have to open your mind, open your heart, open your will, and allow time for whatever's happening. And somebody wrote an article the other day, and I know this may not register, but that gestation pregnancy is 9 months. And somebody wrote that, the world is in a gestation to a new future. So I said, well, we haven't done 9 months yet, and having given birth to 2 children myself, I know that there's lots of stages in that gestation where you kind of think, oh my God, is this baby ever going to come? And it all happens. But maybe that's the patience bit of what we're in at the moment and attending to things, again, going back to sleep and diet and meditation or qigong or, whatever it is, dancing, whatever it is that we can get back into the natural flow of life, natural flow of nature is something I think we can all do, because we all have the ability to make a choice every day to do that. Yeah. Even if I had a young man who was following me from Africa, and he said, I love your smile. How can you teach me to smile? And I said, no, I can't. I can inspire you to smile, but you need to go outside and be grateful for something. I know he's in a very poor and impoverished situation, but I said, you can look at the sky and say, hey, there's the sky. Or you can know your breathing. You've got to start with basics. Is that true, David, in terms of sleep? And I really get your waves of sleep, because I think if I go to bed and I'm tired and then I suddenly start thinking, and I'm really tired, but I'll be awake for a bit waiting for that next wave. And so many people in the world don't even realize this, that we have natural gifts, and we have natural gifts given to us every day just because we breathe. And we can all smile.
Maybe that's the lead into another one of the things that people can do when they're lying there thinking and worrying in bed. Most of the thinking and worrying that we do in bed needs to be done. It's things like, what did I do today? What am I going to do tomorrow? How am I going to solve this problem? How am I going to solve that problem? It all needs to be done. It just doesn't need to be done in bed. And when it's done in bed, it can interfere with sleep. So the idea is set aside some time during the day to do all the thinking and worrying that you need to do. Maybe with a pen and paper, because then you put it down and gets it out of your head. And you do that. It may be 5 minutes, it may be an hour, it can be any amount of time. It may be the same time every day, it may be just whenever. But just make sure, and it needs to be not in the last half hour or hour before bed, because then that gets you going. But you do it during the day. So then when the thoughts come when you're in bed, you simply say to yourself, stop. I thought about this today. I'll think about it again tomorrow. I'm just going to sleep now. I thought about it today. I'll think about it tomorrow. I'm just going to sleep now. Now, one of the, when I used to see people one-to-one for sleep, one of the people who was using the self-help program, it's a 4 to 6 week self-help program. So one of the people who was using it was a GP, a family physician who was using it for his own sleep. And he came back at the 6 week follow-up, and he said, first week I thought I was going to go crazy. I was saying it over and over. I thought about it today, I'll think about it tomorrow, I'm just going to sleep. I thought, and so on. Because it's like a mantra. So anyway, he said in the second week, I found I didn't have to say it as much, and my mind didn't automatically click into the thinking and worrying. So that's how it works. The mind is a bit like a child. And if you give it the limits, then it can learn actually to do the thinking and worrying some other time, some other place. So that's another way of learning to just lie there resting peacefully and do the thinking and worrying some other time, some other place.
That's it.
But I'd like to come back to also what was being talked about, you know, we have an opportunity here that this is kind of a break. I'm a great believer in that, and in some very concrete things. So, for instance, in Australia and pretty much everywhere, we have an economic recession now, and so what's needed is there's not enough consumer spending because people are very frightened and they're holding on to their money, or they don't have any money now. So the government needs to pick up the slack and spend some more. And so they can spend on whatever they want. So for instance, now is the time to build social housing. In most countries, there's not enough social housing. That provides employment for the tradies who need to build the housing, and it provides accommodation for the people who are homeless and for people who urgently need housing. So you kill two birds with one stone, or as the Ugandans like to say, that's too cruel. They say you feed two birds with one seed.
I like that.
Nice other way of saying that. Or for instance, another thing that's happened here is that the unemployment benefit for people who are unemployed was way below the poverty line. And everybody, even the Business Council, was saying, it's too low, it's too low. People can't afford to go and try and find a job. They're so busy trying to put food on the table. That's partly because governments like to demonize the people who are unemployed and say, oh, they don't want to work. But there are not enough jobs around. So now you can't demonize the unemployed because people have been not able to work because the government has said we're closing down the economy for good reasons, for good public health reasons. So they can't demonize the unemployed now. So they actually increased the unemployment benefit, almost doubled it for an individual and less than doubled it for a couple and so on. But they've brought it up above the poverty line, or at least to the poverty line. So now we get to choose. Do we go back to being punitive, or do we say, look, this is a reasonable thing, at least to the poverty line for people who are unemployed? So there are so many choice points like that that we have now, which it's up to us whether we actually take them or not.
That's it. No, as you were saying, Paul, and with this being a gestation period of say 9 months or whatever, focusing on what's right now, not worrying about what's up the track, but okay, deal with the issues of today. As as you've said, David, not worry about tomorrow, but say, okay, the things tomorrow, I'll focus on those tomorrow, but today I've got to get this right, and focusing on the positive side of things, we can start to move forward. So taking this time and that to go, okay, what are the opportunities that are here? Not about what the things that we lost, but what opportunities are in front of us, and moving towards those right now. It's the most important thing, I think.
There's something else that I see that I don't know if a lot of other people see it. But one of the things that I've been doing over the years is studying the techniques of magicians. And one of the things that magicians specialize in something called misdirection. That gets you to look in a certain place so you don't actually see what's going on. So in terms of the world and all these dramas, endless dramas, one after another, in my opinion, this is misdirection. All of it. It's a show designed to suck us into all sorts of dramas, endless dramas, one after another, lots of screaming in the media. But the way that I'm seeing it is like, oh, okay, over here, there's look here, look here, look here, look here, look here. And I'm thinking, yeah, but what about over here? What about over here, where we can't see what's going on? And it's really obvious to me that something else is going on. I can't tell you what it is. I don't know what it is. All I know is that I feel it and I see it. And if I can pull myself away from all this drama, and find a way to dumb it down so I only get the most important stuff in my life, then it's like, well, I wonder. And there are opportunities, as all of you have been saying. I've been seeing them too, in terms of business, in terms of stuff like that. But I mean, I keep wishing, and I would love to have an audience with Penn and Teller, because I'm sure they'd be laughing their butts off about this, at the masterful execution of misdirection in this whole thing. My 2 cents.
We actually diffuse that to a degree if we just focus on what we really know, because there's, no matter who we are, everyone's got an agenda. Some people have an agenda to manipulate others. Some people have an agenda just to have a great life. Others have agendas to help everybody else. There's always an agenda. So it's question comes back to me. For me, is what's my agenda? That's the agenda that's most important that I've got to focus on, and hopefully get other like minds around who have a similar thing. And then it's like meditation. You can meditate on your own, but I know that what was in America, they had about 4,000 people who got together at a certain time and did a meditation. And in that period of time, crime actually reduced in New York City. So the energy that we put out. So it's when we actually get together with like-minded people. So focusing on the positive side of things, what can we actually do here to move forward? And when everybody starts to do that, you can be waving one hand over here and nobody's going to see it. And that's how I believe are dealing with the misdirections, not focusing on what's going on out there, but what can I do right here, right now myself?
Yeah, exactly my point. But it's hard because it's very compelling. It's very enticing in so many different ways. And there's so many fingers, if you will, coming at all of us to get glued into this, because prior to this, I didn't do any of this at all. And I've just been looking at this going, whoa, this is way too much. And have to find a way to filter it out, stop it, and find some sort of ground, which of course you've been talking about, Pauline, with nature. And actually, I forgot to mention this earlier, which is not entirely relevant, but maybe a little bit. But when we started talking about this, started talking about grounding, I was thinking, I'm wearing sandals here. I need to take them off and put my bare feet on the floor so I can feel the solid marble floor where I'm at. That'll help me to be grounded for this talk.
And my agenda is to try and help as many people to sleep better as possible.
Yeah, well, that's your field, my friend. I'm not so good at that. I used to be better, but I don't know if it's happened to you, Alan, but one of the things that does happen, as I've discovered, is this lovely thing called prostatitis in men. And if it happens, it really screws up your sleep cycles. And I've been reading about, what can I do to minimize that? And apparently a big part of that is changing diet. And once I get on my own again, I'm going to be doing some major changes, and hopefully it will make a difference.
And on that, I'd say when you're talking about changing diet as well, food we ingest at certain times through the day, but our thought patterns are 24/7.
True.
So it's the chemicals that are created from that where I believe we put our major focus on. That helps us then to value ourselves more, to put better, to then start doing other things that look after us and serve us and allow us to serve other people. And that impacts on other people because everybody responds to their environment. So
Yeah.
I can be create the best environment I can around me, and then with the people I interact with, be the best environment for them, so that they can then make better choices as well. So, and everything starts, I don't worry about what's happening out in the world because I can't change that. All I can do is change me, and that's what I've got to focus in the first place. And if I can do that,
reminder.
then that's going to impact on everybody else.
That's good. And if I can just let people know, this is not a money-making operation. It's $10 to learn to sleep better, $9.99. And sleepbetter.com.au is the place you can find how to do it.
Okay.
Sleepbetter.com.au.
No, I'll put that in the notes as well. So in finishing up, because I notice we've gone over time as usual, it always happens in these.
No worries.
Any final words that you have, suggestions to help out, things that you've done yourself that can help you believe that other people take it on can help them as well moving forward?
Let me offer one quick one, which is I did Qigong, and if anybody finds Qigong, it's a really good practice. But one of the points of it, and it reminded me, Nathan, when you said take your shoes off, take your shoes off and feel the ground beneath you. But imagine that stretches right down into the core of the earth, which as we know is molten lava. And then imagine it stretching out through your body and up into the farthest point of the universe. And you realize how you're connected to this energy stream, and just think about the flow of that energy stream. And like you said, Alan, be positive, make choices, and within it will impact everything around us. That's what I believe.
Excellent. Nathan, any final words?
How much? I said everything I needed to say earlier.
Okay. Then,
So it's pretty much done, mostly to do with unplugging, you know.
Unplugging, yes.
unplug.
Yeah,
Excellent.
unplugging. I need to do more of it. That's a definite. When I get back to this small town, I'm going to go to the bookstore and get some good old-fashioned paper books. I don't like reading digitally all that much, but
Yeah.
paper, love it.
Excellent.
For me, it's do focus on things other than the crisis.
Yeah.
Enjoy Netflix or whatever
Yeah.
form of distraction that you like. It's more than distraction. It's actually food for the soul, to really focus on something which doesn't matter, but which you enjoy. And everybody's different on what they enjoy, but focus on something that you enjoy at least part of each day. I think that's a really important thing to do.
Yeah.
Or
Excellent.
magic for me. I love that stuff.
The one thing I've been doing is looking more at YouTube, but being selective, finding comedians like Michael McIntyre or Would I Lie to You? Shows like that where I can have a really good laugh, I can relax, let go of what's been going on in the day. And then when I go to bed, it doesn't take long after my head hits the pillow. Sometimes I think it's on its way to the pillow and I'm already asleep. So, and having a good night's sleep, then if I wake up the next morning, I feel refreshed and everything else. I know that my mind hasn't been working in a negative fashion through the night. Otherwise, I'd be exhausted. So, again, guys, thanks everyone for being here today. Nathan, David, and Pauline, really appreciate your time and your thoughts. And we'll get you on more panels, I hope. And to everybody else who's been watching, I hope you get a lot out of it. As I'd suggest, as David said, it's not a money-making thing, but if you're having trouble sleeping, the $10 for his program is definitely the way to go. I've been enjoying listening to the videos. And by the way, I started reading the book and I started falling asleep very quickly. So I went off. It's working even from that point of view. But again, Thanks everybody for being here, and we'll see you on the next panel discussion. Bye for now.
Thanks,
Thanks, Alan. Thanks for having us.